Hola compañeros, mi nombre es Enrique y hoy voy a contarles la historia de cómo aprendí español. Okay, so for the people who didn't understand that, my name is Henry and today I'm going to share with you guys the story of how I learned Spanish. And I'm also going to break down all the individual methods that I learned along the way that'll help you learn as well if you're interested in learning. When I was 17 years old, I had a Mexican girlfriend, and when she brought me home to her family, I was so enamored by the little bits of Mexican culture that they shared with me, and I was so jealous that they could all speak Spanish that I decided to try and learn it myself. So in the very beginning, I pretty much just had to ask as many questions as I possibly could, and I was very lucky because I worked in a restaurant that had a lot of Mexicans working in the kitchen. So whenever I had downtime at work, I would go to the back and ask them if they needed help with anything, and I would try and help them. And while I was helping them, I would just ask them a lot of questions about, like, how do you say this in Spanish? How do you say that in Spanish? And they would tell me. So if you guys have any Spanish-speaking friends, you have to take advantage of that opportunity because that is just a free teacher right there. Obviously, you want to be nice to them. Maybe buy them lunch someday to pay them back. But do not pass up that opportunity because it is such an asset to have if you have any friends that speak the language. Okay, so method number 2 was Duolingo. After a few weeks of learning, somebody recommended I download this app. It's called Duolingo, and it's like this free language learning game app. And I gotta say, after I downloaded it, I was absolutely hooked from the first day. It's so fun and it's so educational, and I learned so many words, but more importantly, I learned grammar as well. And that is absolutely essential to know. The words don't mean anything if you can't use them in a sentence. So the convenience of that was just perfect for me because I was able to do it when I was sitting in line at the drive-thru or waiting on a movie to start. And the fact that I could do that whenever I wanted to, it really felt like I was maximizing my productivity throughout the day. Okay, so method number 3 is music. I remember being at work one day and hearing this song on the radio play from the kitchen. And I thought it was such a beautiful song, but it was in Spanish, so I didn't really understand it that well. Well, I asked the guy who was playing the song what it was called, and this caused me to fall down this huge rabbit hole of Spanish music. And for a while, Spanish music was the only music that I listened to. And I didn't really understand the lyrics that well at first, but my curiosity led me to translate the lyrics because I was curious about what they were saying. And there were even moments where I had certain songs that I really liked, so I tried to sing them or learn parts of the song for me to sing. And that did wonders for my pronunciation. Okay, method number 4, subtitles and dubs. So I remember watching this movie on Netflix one day and then seeing that they had this option to watch it with Spanish subtitles. And I was like, I think I just discovered a great new way to learn Spanish because while I'm sitting here watching this movie that I was already going to watch anyway, I'm learning Spanish at the same time because I'm seeing the translation for all the words at the bottom. Or on the other end, you can put Spanish dubs over your favorite movie or TV show and watch it with English subtitles on the bottom. And this way you're actually hearing the words spoken rather than just reading them. This method to me is so genius because you're literally learning Spanish just sitting on the couch watching Netflix. Feels great. Okay, method number 5 is to visit a Spanish-speaking country. So I was about 2 years into my journey of learning Spanish at this point, but I still was not at all comfortable having conversations in Spanish. Well, I got invited to go to Mexico on this little weekend getaway, and of course I said yes. But when I went down there, I was completely surprised because I found myself speaking Spanish to all the locals when I needed to find my way around town. This is when I started to feel like all my hard work was paying off. I was asking for directions, I was haggling with street vendors, I was ordering food from restaurants in Spanish. I got some great practice and learned a lot of new things along the way. I remember while I was waiting in line at the border to get back into the United States, I saw this girl selling tortillas, and I thought she was so beautiful that I asked her in Spanish if I could have her phone number, and she said yes. And I was so happy about that I drove all the way back to Mexico a week later just to go on a date with her. And that brings me to my next method. Method number 6, hang out with / go on dates with Spanish speakers. So when I decided to go all the way back to Mexico just to go on a date with this girl, I knew that it was probably going to be really awkward because of our language barrier. But I accepted that and I decided to go for it anyway. I remember that there were so many things that I didn't know how to say that I seriously just had to type them out and translate them on my phone and then hand her the phone and have her read them, and then she would do the same thing back to me and we would communicate that way. I learned so many new words doing that, but not only that, it also kind of got me desensitized to that awkward feeling of mistranslation, and that's absolutely something that you need to get past if you want to become fluent. Okay, method number 7, this is a quick one. Put your phone in Spanish. This is an idea I had one day to just put my phone in Spanish and to see what would happen, and I actually learned a lot of Spanish words. It only takes a few seconds to do, and while you're doing everyday tasks, you can learn a ton of new words. If you ever get overwhelmed, you can always just put it back in English. And finally, method number 8. Move to a Spanish-speaking country. I remember waking up one morning to a phone call from a former Mexican coworker of mine. And what she said was that her visa was expiring and that she had to move back to Mexico in a few months. And she wanted to know if I wanted to go with her. I thought of all the opportunities that I would have to learn Spanish if I lived in Mexico, so I said yes. A few months later, I was living in Mexico and was cementing everything that I had learned. It wasn't long before I started to feel like I was fluent. I only lived there for about 5 months, but I gotta say, nothing helped me learn Spanish more than being surrounded by it 24/7. Okay, so those are all the methods that worked for me. I'm sure there are many other ways out there, but the key is to just keep trying new things until you find what works for you. Okay, so here's a quick recap of all of my methods. 1. Ask questions. 2. Duolingo. 3. Listen to Spanish music. 4. Subtitles and dubs. 5. Visit a Spanish-speaking country. 6. Hang out/go on dates with Spanish speakers. 7. Put your phone in Spanish. And 8. Move to a Spanish-speaking country. Ok, eso es todo por el video. Espero que aprendiste algo y te deseo mucha suerte en tu aventura de aprender español.